back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well out there. And today we're heading off to Avalon Bay for some mayhem. But before we do that, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Also, shameless plug for my TeePublic page. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. And today we're going back to slasher territory for 1981's The Prowler. Yes. Now, The Prowler came out November 10th of 1981. It's rated R. It's an hour and 29 minutes long. Had a budget of $1 million, and upon release, it made about $1 million. So this was not a huge hit, although it was fairly good, well reviewed back then, and we'll get into that. This was directed by Joseph Zito. Joe Zito, this was his first big film. This was what got him Friday the 13th Part 4, where he would re-team with Tom Savini. Tom Savini did the special effects on this, and will go on to work with Joseph Zito on Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, which is my personal favorite of the Friday the 13th franchise. In this film, we got Vicki Dawson playing our final girl, Pam. We got Christopher Goldman playing Mark. He is the deputy of this small town of Avalon Bay. And Lawrence Tierney is in this film as Major Chatham. He doesn't talk, but Lawrence Tierney is here, so it's worth noting that. And this film starts off in June of 1945. World War II was just coming to an end. The soldiers were coming back, and it was kind of like a homecoming ball for the soldiers that were returning. And this one soldier gets a Dear John letter from his girlfriend explaining that she is breaking up with him. She hopes they can remain friends, but she found somebody else. And on that night after the ball, this girl goes to a lover's lane with this guy on this like gazebo on this lake and gets brutally murdered by somebody in a uniform with his face covered using a pitchfork. And that is the start of The Prowler. And since then, they didn't have like a homecoming dance or a graduation dance. Well, 35 years later, they're about to have their first one, and The Prowler returns for more mayhem. And that, pretty much, that is the story of The Prowler. A good old 80s style slasher film. This came out obviously after Halloween and Friday the 13th. Matter of fact, Tom Savini was just coming off of Maniac to do the effects on this film. So what to like about this film? Well, Vicki is our main final girl. She's fine. She's not the most interesting final girl in some of the other slasher films. She's no Jamie Lee Curtis, but she's fine here. And Christopher Goldman is Mark. They're pretty good together because they're kind of sweet on each other. They like each other. Lawrence Tierney doesn't get a whole lot to do. Like I said, he doesn't talk. I think it's shot pretty well. It has a dream-like quality to it by Joseph Zito. It's like a soft quality. I really like the look of the film. I think he directs it pretty damn good. I think this is actually one of the better early slasher films because of the directing, and obviously, so just hearing the name Tom Savini, a lot of folks will tune in just for those effects. And again, he doesn't disappoint here. The effects are spectacular. They're very brutal, very violent, very gory. The whodunit aspect, obviously this is a whodunit, but you know, because we assume it's the same guy who did it back in 45, it's the same guy doing it again. So going into it, you assume it's an older person, and there's a few older people, like middle-aged older people peppered throughout the film. So it kind of narrows it down who it possibly could be. And at the end of the film, spoiler alert, this movie's been out since 81, ends up being the chief of police who said he was going on a fishing trip. He ends up being the Prowler, and he gets killed in a very violent way. And when the head gets shot with the shotgun, there's a double-barrel shotgun blast to the face, which looks spectacular. Tom Savini actually did shoot a fake head with a double-barrel shotgun to get that effect on screen. And that's awesome. This film was shot in 6 weeks. It was shot in Cape May, New Jersey. Joseph Zito originally wanted to film this in California, but it was cheaper to shoot in Cape May, New Jersey, and it had everything they needed, especially shooting in the off-season. They didn't start shooting this till October, so it was kind of like a ghost town because Cape May is very much a summer community. So they pretty much had to run the place. And there's a lot of nice Victorian architecture in that. I really like the look and the location of this film. And actually, in the international markets, this was released as Rosemary's Killer. It wasn't even went out as the Prowler. And the working title, where they were shooting this film, was Graduation. Now, Tom Savini would go on to collaborate with Joseph Zito again on Friday the 13th Part 4, but he would also collaborate with him on Invasion USA, because Joseph Zito, after this, would do Friday the 13th Part 4. Then he would go off and work for Cannon by doing Missing in Action Part 1, Invasion USA. And then later in the 80s, late 80s, he did Red Scorpion with Dolph Lundgren later on, if you remember that film. And I have always liked Joseph Zito did a great job with Friday the 13th Part 4. Up to that point, I think he directed. His was the best directed film until Tom McLaughlin came in Part 6. Not that Steve Miner did a bad job or Sean Cunningham on the first one, but I think his was the better directed one, and obviously he, like Tom Savini, came back to the franchise after Part 1. At the end of the day, this is a very, very solid slasher film from the early 80s when there was slasher films coming out constantly. I mean, this came out in 81 after Friday the 13th, but you had Terror Train, Prom Night, tons of slasher films coming out that I'm not even mentioning. So this kind of got lost in the shuffle. Also, didn't get a proper release. Joseph Zito said that the AFCO Embassy made him an offer, but the producer, thinking he was better at business, didn't take that offer because he thought they could make more money just releasing it themselves. So it was kind of like a regionally released slasher film, and it only made enough money to make its budget back. So I think if they would have handed it over to AFCO Embassy and it would have got a good promotional campaign, this movie could have did better because it definitely is one of the better slasher films of the period. Funny story though about this film. It wasn't discovered till like 2014, but they found out that in 84, some enterprising person renamed the movie Pitchfork Massacre and released it in a couple theaters in North and South Carolina. But nobody knows what distribution company did it or who actually did it, so nobody ever got sued over it. And it only ever played in a handful of theaters under that title. But yeah, it wasn't discovered until many years later that some enterprising person did rename it and put it out there as a different film. So that's kind of funny. Now, you can get this Blu-ray on Amazon through Blue Underground. It's a pretty good transfer. It's definitely an upgrade from the old DVD. We don't have a 4K of this yet, but the Blu-ray will do you. There's a making of on here. There's some footage from Tom Savini of his behind the scenes for his makeup effects. That's pretty cool. So this is definitely worthwhile. And there's also audio commentary on here with Joseph Zito. So there's some special features on here. If you like this film, it's definitely worth picking up. I think you can get it on Amazon for like $15. But if you don't want to purchase the physical copy, it was streaming on Tubi. I don't know if it still was. That was about 3 weeks ago. I noticed it was on there. So if you want to watch it, Tubi did have it. So check on there first if you're going to watch it for free. But at the end of the day, I really like this film. It's definitely a very solid slasher film. I would give The Prowler a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10 for The Prowler. If you've ever seen this one or even heard of it, leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with some more reviews. But until next time, bye.